Today with me, we're going to talk about the disease of Alzheimer's. We have Cheryl Blanchard of Alzheimer's Tennessee and Grady Payne, a staple in the community from Republic Bank. Cheryl, I'm going to kick it off with you to talk a little bit about what you do and what Alzheimer's Tennessee does for people with the disease.
So Alzheimer's Tennessee, we're a statewide nonprofit organization. We do not have a national affiliation, which means that everything we do has a direct impact on the 125,000 Tennesseans impacted by Alzheimer's or one of the other dementias. And we provide a lot of support services, just really supporting and guiding a family when they get the diagnosis through caregiver consultations by phone or in person. We offer a number of support groups throughout the community, a lot of education throughout the community, and that's both for families and assisted living memory care communities on how to manage this disease. We also do a lot of education for police departments. I actually just spoke to the B&A Airport Police and educated them on how to interact with somebody with a diagnosis. And just a number of other things, anything that the community or a family needs to understand or deal with the impact of Alzheimer's disease, we're here for them.
What got you into getting into the association? What's your drive of, I know you have a lot of passion for this.
I really do. It was about 14 years ago. I was working for a home health company, and I interacted with my first family where she was the patient and needed to be sitting still, keeping her foot elevated, and he had Alzheimer's and was sundowning. And she just kept saying, I don't know what to do. I don't have anybody to help me. How can I do this? I don't know what to do. And I was hooked. I knew then that I wanted to spend the rest of my career helping folks like her.
That's great. Grady's the one that kind of introduced us right now, and I saw his passion, and this is why I wanted on this podcast. But Grady, you've had some experience with the disease within your family, correct?
Mother and both grandparents.
How'd that affect everybody?
Well, so my grandfather, if I can remember correctly, it was almost a day to night shift from being normal to not being able to function. And my mother, and this was in Gallatin, we lived in Brentwood, Franklin, and she was going up there every weekend, depending on where he was at, to take care of him. The disease at that point was still relatively new. It just took a toll on her, going back and forth. And then when my mother had it, she had it for about 13 years. Took a toll on me and my sister. I would go up almost every weekend on a Sunday and spend the afternoon with her, making sure that they were being taken care of.
Were there any associations at that time or starting that you had any support from, or is this something that you just kind of had to try to figure out on your own?
Well, that was more, now, not with my grandfather. No. For my mother, my sister did leverage some local resources. I don't know the affiliation of any of that. That was more on her. She was able and had the time to take more care of my mother throughout the week. But she did have some resources, but still just kind of left out there. I wished I had known about Cheryl's organization at that point. And she's been gone 5 years. So you were there. I just didn't know about it. And this is why I really support what she does. It's local. I wished I'd known.
And that's one thing, is that everybody that I've had on this podcast, I always believe in working with local nonprofits that give back to the community, give back to the families, help people through what they go through locally instead of dealing with a national organization, which, yes, they do their own job, but you get that personal touch, which, Cheryl, I think that's what you bring to this about being out in the community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I belong to a few chambers and a lot of other networking groups, just so folks know that we're here. But, to Grady's point, this disease, more than others, it seems, really takes an emotional toll on the families. And that's a big part of what we do, is just supporting those families. And because we're local and live in the communities that we serve, it helps me to know what the resources are. You know, Memphis is not the same as Middle Tennessee, and we're not the same as Johnson City. So just being here in the community, knowing what the resources are, when a family calls in, I'm able to say, oh yeah, there is an agency, or let me tell you about this financial resource, and here's the name and here's the number to call. So it's a very personalized approach when helping these families.
Where are the locations? What areas do you cover within Tennessee? You mentioned the 2 cities, but explain a little bit more of what other areas that you're actually embedded in.
Yeah, well, we cover the whole state. So Alzheimer's Tennessee, we've got you covered. We've got an office in Johnson City for Northeast Tennessee. Knoxville is our starting point. We started there about 42 years ago. So Knoxville, we're on the Plateau. The Cumberland office covers the Cookeville-Crossville area and several counties around there. Middle Tennessee, my physical office is in Franklin, but I cover 16 counties. We've got an office in Tullahoma, and we've got an office over in Jackson that covers West Tennessee.
Now, with what you do, is it more of a support? Do you do a treatment of the disease? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we don't do any medical treatment. We're not physicians, but we, well, like in Grady's case, he said, we didn't know. We didn't know what to do. So it starts with that first phone call. And I answer those helpline calls personally. Mm-hmm. So they're not going through a call center or talking to anybody. They come directly through me. And that's true of all the regions. They go directly to somebody in that office. And we just say, hey, tell me what's going on. What are you experiencing? Do you have any support? And we just start with that conversation. And from there, if there's a financial need, I'm getting them connected to financial assistance. If there's a need for support groups, which in my opinion, there always is, we get them in the support groups. I do a lot of education, helping families understand, you know, how do you manage this? What if the family isn't in agreement? Then I'll work with that family and help give them the information, getting them connected if they need in-home care, adult day programs, if they're looking at assisted living, just anything from starting at something's up with mom, what's going on, all the way through getting them connected with hospice to help them in their last days.
I can't say I've had that experience in living in here. I know my uncle had dementia, and I had seen him a couple times before he passed, and so I really don't know what the deciding factor is, how they actually figured it out for him to go starting to get treatment or support. So what are the starting indications of someone who has either dementia and or Alzheimer's?
Well, it depends. So dementia is an umbrella term. That's a term we use to describe cognitive changes, changes in memory, thinking, reasoning, problem solving. And we go, something's going on with this person's thinking skills. Okay. Then you want to go find out why. So Alzheimer's disease is the disease that's the leading cause of dementia. But there are about 85 other things that can cause this thing we call dementia. So for you, me, Grady, you know, we might occasionally forget where we parked the car, why we walked into a room. But if we figure it out, that's just kind of normal, right. You know. And as we age, we slow down a little bit, just like a computer does. But when you start seeing memory loss that impacts daily living, when it starts to impact your ability to live, to think, to figure things out, then it's time to get that checked out. But for Alzheimer's disease, it is that short-term memory loss and language difficulty. With some of the other types of dementia, like frontal temporal dementia or Lewy body dementia, you have other symptoms that show up first. So that might be personality changes or just difficulty talking, and your memory may be intact. So just any kind of changes that you see that kind of don't resolve, we'd encourage you, just get it checked out, because many, many medical conditions can cause those cognitive changes, and they can be treated, and then you can resolve that issue. Depression, for example, it's called pseudo-dementia because it looks so much like dementia, and it's treatable. So we just always encourage families, if you've got any concerns whatsoever, go find out, because there may be a reversible cause. And wouldn't that be great news?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So do you have offices people visit? Do you go to the home and help with the diagnostic? Now, I mean, you said you're not medical, but kind of help and tell them what's going on, and then they can go to their physician if there's any type of medication they can be on to assist in that? All
of the above, yeah. So when folks call, I just say, what would be easiest for you? We can have a phone call. We can meet somewhere. I drink a lot of coffee, meet a lot of folks out in coffee shops. I do go to their homes. I'll go to an assisted living community. And very often we'll do Zoom calls because there's family members that live in other parts of the country that want to be involved. So oftentimes we'll just set up a conference call so that the entire family can ask questions and hear the same information at the same time. So it's whatever that family needs.
Well, I mean, I've seen a couple of the seniors' homes here. And no, Grady, you're not putting me in one. But some of them have like an
There
Alzheimer's.
goes my agenda for the week. I thought I had it figured out.
I've seen a lot that say they specialize in Alzheimer's care. How many of those are in the area that you would guide someone to if someone needs to be put in the home and cannot remain in the home?
I think there's about 4 or 5 here in the Rutherford County area. Well, and if you include Smyrna, there'd be more than that. But I stop at the point of making a recommendation because, like I said, I connect them with resources. So there are great agencies that are placement agencies, and they're like little real estate agents for these assisted living and memory care communities. So I'll get families connected with them because then they're able to guide that family. They set up tours. They will go on tours with the family, really help them find the right fit, and that's done at no charge to the family. And a lot of families don't even know those agencies exist. So that's another way we're able to help them. And I actually encourage families not to try to make that decision on their own. Let me get you with one of these agencies that'll go with you and help you get to the right fit.
Now, you have a event coming up.
We do.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And Grady is here because he's been a great supporter of Alzheimer's Tennessee since we met. But this is our 3rd annual Rockin' Against Alzheimer's. Republic Bank is one of our major sponsors. It's presented by Amada Senior Care. But we bring Mixtape, a great 80s band, out to Hop Springs, which is a fantastic venue. And it's just a full 3-hour show of great 80s music. So we encourage everybody to come out. Every ticket sale benefits Alzheimer's Tennessee and gives us the funding we need to provide programs and services to folks in the community.
But this year, right, you're getting up on stage and dancing this year?
I don't think that's on the agenda. No.
Well, but great.
But all the proceeds stay local. And that's one reason, Republic Bank got involved with us, and Grady likes to continue to be involved because we mentioned that he's very involved in the community. When you donate money to Alzheimer's Tennessee, every bit of that money stays right here in Tennessee. And for this particular event, all of it stays right here in Middle Tennessee. So you're certain when you support us that you're actually helping your neighbors, folks you go to church with, family, right here in the community.
That was the thing for me. It stays here. If we could jump back just a minute where I think this is, and you do more than this. You do your walk in
absolutely.
Franklin. You've got some other things that you do. I think looking back, what my mother went through, and this is for folks that looking for signs, like, is this dementia? Where does dementia cross over into Alzheimer's? And it was always dementia growing up. Oh, my grandma, she's just forgetting because she's got dementia or old age disease, whatever you want to call it. My mother had worked in retail, and at some point she was having difficulty operating the cash register, forgetting what keys to hit. And at that point, the supervisor called my sister, said, hey, there's something going on here. So he took her off the cash register and put her into stocking clothes. That went okay for a minute, but then issues started popping up there. At that point is when we took her to the doctor, and there was the plaque buildup that you hear about in the brain scans or whatnot. And we knew that, okay, hereditary in some cases on that disease. She's obviously picking this stuff up. Retired her, put her in facilities. That's where we needed help. We didn't know where to put her. So it was kind of a search and destroy type thing. Where do we go?
Right.
And there are multiple facilities to put your parents in. Well, that could have a degree of care. There could be issues with that facility about not taking care of your loved ones.
Right.
That's where the guidance comes in, and what Cheryl provides is help with that. Because I think in the 12, 13 years that my mother had this, 4 or 5 facilities we had her in. You don't know. The lack of care fell off. Even with the new ones going in, the care was fine. You get a year down the road and things start popping up, especially like overnight. They have a tendency to fall out of bed and stuff like that. And how long were they on the floor? And you start to discover these things, and it became a problem for us to where can we get adequate care that when we're not there, we know she's being taken care of? And that was the problem. And that's where the family, because of, I don't want to say the lack of care, but concerned about the care, you're on site more to make sure that they're taken care of.
Or the lack of education of how to manage the emotional part. And
Oh, it's tough. And you go home. I mean, I would sit there towards the end. At some point, she couldn't speak. And that's just kind of a common thing as it progresses. She couldn't speak. But the last thing that she would kind of respond to was music. So I would play it on my phone, and we would just sit outside on the patio, and she'd want to try to sing, but I could see it lighted her up. You know, she knew what was going on. She just couldn't express anything. Again, sad to see, and you go home with that. I mean, it doesn't go away on your trip home.
no,
When you get home, it's like,
sure.
oh my gosh, you know. Again, you just do what you have to do, and it's just one of those things you just kind of got to ride it out. But still, it does affect you when you get home. It does affect you. Okay, maybe we need to find another place. Well, who do I turn to?
Right.
What's a reputable place? You can go in and interview the staff, the executive director of the facility. Well, they're going to tell you what they're going to tell you to get somebody to stay with them in their facility.
Right.
Because it's not cheap to be in one of those. That would have been very, very helpful to us to have had someone to turn to.
Some guidance somewhere along the line of,
You don't know.
you know,
You don't know. And that was the thing, too. Again, especially going back to where my mother was spending time with my grandfather, that was time consuming. She'd go up every weekend and stay in their house and go visit him throughout the weekend. Again, this was early on when Alzheimer's was really a new thing. And I could see when she got home. She was stressed out, and unfortunately, she might have taken it out on us a little bit. And I didn't know.
right.
I didn't know. I was a kid, right? So it's just it is all time consuming. It affects families in a negative way in a lot of cases. But having Cheryl and her Alzheimer's Tennessee and those resources, and again, Ron, you and I are local.
Right.
We absolutely believe in local businesses
Exactly.
and local
Definitely.
support. The fact that the money stays here, that's why I've supported her, I don't know, 4 or 5
4 years ago.
now?
Yeah.
Something like that. So yeah. And we'll continue to do so as long as I can.
Yeah, when you found out I was doing this, and that's one of the first things you said. You kind of gave me some reasons why, which I didn't know what you've gone through in your life, and that's one reason why when you're local and you meet somebody, you understand, or you find out, or they actually give you information of what they've gone through their life and why. And that's why I've had you on, is because I saw your passion in your eyes and in your voice inflection of that. Now, going back, Cheryl, if someone is in a home, you still will support and go to that home occasionally along with the family too?
We will support the family any way we can. Yeah.
Okay.
And oftentimes there's a lot of guilt that goes along with making that decision. So, we're there to walk that family through that and really help them look at, can you really, I know you want to keep mom at home, but can you? And is that really the best for her? And if you look at the research, a lot of the research will say, no, it's not, because social engagement and interaction is one of the best things to keep your mind active.
Right,
And
exactly.
for longevity, it's social engagement. So if mom's home alone all day, every day, that might be the promise you made. And we encourage folks not to make promises you don't know you can keep, right? But it may not be the best for her. So just helping them really take a look at that from an outside perspective and guiding them into making those decisions. But certainly when they're still in a home, if a family calls and's having a problem, I'm going to get them connected to an ombudsman or somebody that can help them address that issue.
Now, when you do this, is this something that when you talking to families is a once a week thing, twice a week thing?
Whatever they need.
Whatever they need.
Yeah, and I've
So-
had families I've been working with 4 years that'll still call back just to say, hey, this is what's going on now. Or maybe they, like Grady, need to make a change. Like he was saying, what do we do? How do we do this? So whatever, like I said, from start to finish, we're available. And the great thing about calling back is I remember the conversation usually. They catch me up and it's not starting over.
Right.
And that feels really good to families that they've got a place to go back to instead of calling and starting completely from the beginning. We just kind of pick up where we left off.
Okay. What other events do you do in order to get contributions so that you can continue to assist families?
Yeah. So our big walk for Middle Tennessee is held in Franklin. We did that March 29th. It was a great success. That's every year in the spring. We do the Rockin' Against Alzheimer's every year around May. In June, we're having a big dunking booth event, which I think Grady Payne ought to come in, but it's called...
Trent, do you agree that that at Grady, we probably would get a lot of people there at the
Probably
dunk booth?
so.
Absolutely.
But it's
I
called...
don't really care about being voluntold on something.
It's called Make a Splash for Alzheimer's Tennessee. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We just had Derby Day on Friday. A community did a big Derby Day. I think that one raised about $3,000. So anything and everything. I mentioned we've got an event coming up September 5th here at Cedar Glade. We've had events with Morning Glory Orchard, with Middle Ground Brewing Company, with Mr. Brew's Tap House, just lots of organizations will do just a percentage day. So restaurants will say, yeah, we'll give a percentage of the day to Alzheimer's Tennessee. So anything and everything that is a fundraiser goes back into, again, Middle Tennessee to provide all these programs and services, like the Silver Alert program, which I'd like to mention since May is Silver Alert Awareness Month. Is that okay? All right. So May is Silver Alert Awareness Month. So the Silver Alert law was passed in 21, but when law enforcement started responding to those calls, they found out that families weren't prepared. They didn't have all of the information that they needed in order to issue a Silver Alert. And can you guess what the one item they needed that they didn't have was?
No, go ahead.
They didn't have a current photograph. So, and they've got to have a current photograph to issue that Silver Alert. So Alzheimer's Tennessee responded to that need. We created a Silver Alert kit. These are absolutely free to any family that is a caregiver. And we give this to them, and it's got everything they need in it to be prepared in the event that their loved one wanders. Some education about why people wander, how to prevent wandering, and then a step-by-step guide of what to do should your loved one wander. So in May, we're really trying to raise awareness of this. The Capitol should be turned purple this week, and any family that needs one of these can get one free by contacting Alzheimer's Tennessee.
Grady, anything that you'd like to finish up with? Any other comments?
I don't think so at this point. Again, it's just when you get the diagnosis, it's about reaching out and getting additional resources. I do remember, if I remember correctly, I think there were state of Tennessee case managers that would come in the nursing home or whatnot. If I remember correctly, it's been a minute, but it's nothing like having somebody that's boots on the ground. They're just there for make sure everything's going as it should, but that's a snapshot. But I think you and I've got we're working on something here in town. Another one,
Yes.
something more low key here in town. We're looking at venues and bands perhaps for her to put on one more local event. I just think that's another way and people go to those things, right? And again, with the rise of Alzheimer's, and you can get into what's causing all of that. That's a whole different rabbit hole, but it's prevalent. It's a prevalent disease, and the more that we get the word out here that there's resources, people to talk to, because it's not like it's a one fits all disease. There's so many different facets. And there's a dozen different kinds of dementia diseases. It does help to know which one it is. Of course, your doctor can help you with that. But you've got a lot of good things going on.
Thank you.
Well, and the consistency thing, too, as she mentioned that, right? Talked to a family 4 years ago. They don't have to start all over again.
Right.
I think that's a big thing. And the events that Cheryl does, I don't know where she gets sleep. I don't know when she sleeps. There's a lot of things that she does good. And Kevin Fair with Amada Senior Care, Touching Hearts at Home, these folks that have helped her for years keeps the mission running. And again, this is the second place I've worked for, and I've done some individual stuff with Cheryl. We just got to get the word out.
Grady,
and I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah,
Well,
thank
Grady,
you.
and I did because I know how much. I think every event that has to do with a nonprofit, I see you at. So I know that you definitely love giving back to the community and with the help of Republic Bank. So I definitely appreciate that. So on the close, Cheryl, do you want to cover anything? Go through the event again, the date, the time, and how
Absolutely.
they get a hold of
How
you.
you get a hold of me. Yeah. So Rockin' Against Alzheimer's, May 17th out at Hop Springs with Mixtape 80s Band. Dress in your best 80s attire, big hair, all that good stuff. They can get tickets. The doors open at 6 and the show starts at 7. You can get tickets at www.alztennessee.org/rock or on the Hop Springs website. If you need additional information about that, the office number is 615-580-4244. Love to talk to anybody that thinks they might be facing this disease, has questions about it, or is a caregiver. We'd love to talk to you. We're here to support you.
Great. Thanks for coming. Oh, go ahead.
Let's do one more thing. Reiterate this, 'cause I think this is really important here. Go back over that again.
Okay,
I think that's
sure.
really a cool thing y'all do.
So the Silver Alert kits are free. Any family that is providing care to someone with a diagnosis really needs to have one of these kits. You fill it out. It has all of the information you need in there. So if your loved one wonders, you've got everything that you need when law enforcement arrives so that they can very quickly issue that Silver Alert. Time is of the essence when a senior is missing and we want to get them back. And we've got like a 95% success rate when a Silver Alert is issued. They're being found. So again, free to families. All you've got to do is contact us. You can also go on our website and look up Silver Alert and you can download the PDFs there also. Okay. But happy to get these in folks' hands.
Great. Well, I'm glad to have had you on. I learned something today, and hopefully everybody else viewing today has also learned something. That if you have any indications, get a hold of Alzheimer's Tennessee to see how they can assist. Thank you too. Appreciate it.
Thank you.